It's like I watch the news sometimes for fun, and because that's all it is. And it's like they're having a big argument. Well, is the deep state real? Is the deep state not real? Is the deep state real? Is the deep state not real? And it's like, of course it's real. You have guys there that are career civil servants, and I would argue to you that in many places it's actually a really good thing, because they're there no matter who the president is, right? But they're career civil servants. They wield an incredible amount of power. The director of the EPA comes in and goes out depending on who the president is. But all the people, the functionaries that make the EPA function, are there for their entire careers. That's the deep state. But we have to endure these panel after panel. Is the deep state real? Is it not real? And the thing that really troubles me is that, the CIA in particular has had a long history of being able to manipulate media on the right and the left. This is not a right or left thing. This is an all thing. And now, when you tune in, now, they're talking about whoever's, probably being rightly sued for doing some really shady stuff. But now on the panels, instead of just having lawyers or political analysts, how's it going to affect this or that? Are they going to convict it? Are they not? Now I've noticed that these ex-CIA guys are popping up. And it's like, what does a CIA field officer have to say about this? This is about money laundering. It's like, what does he have to do with it? It's just to confuse it more and to make you more paranoid about the wrong things.
I don't know. I just got a funny feeling the way things are going. I do think if it keeps going the way it's going, in about 5 years from now, you're going to actually start seeing the FEMA camp starting to fill up, because something's going to happen. The argument is a fallacy. Well, if you're not doing anything wrong, why do you have anything to hide? Well, if I'm not doing anything wrong, why are you looking? It's like the question is always, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, then you shouldn't care. Well, I do care, and I'm not doing anything wrong, but why are you looking constantly? Are you trying so hard to catch me? Well, I thought we were in a society where, the burden of proof is on the prosecutor. You have to prove that I did something wrong. Well, guess
what? And you have to get a warrant for that.
Well, in this case, talking to Ronald, who was with the DOD, I mean, all that information they're gathering on each one of us on a daily basis. I mean, let's face it. I mean, I have not lived a perfect life. I don't think you have. I don't think the guy down the street, your neighbors, I don't think
nobody has.
No, and the bad thing is they get all this information and then they can manipulate it around any which way they want to incriminate somebody, to make it even look way worse than, even if it wasn't anything major, to make it look major if they have to. And that's what it scares me, because why do they need my email I send to my wife, or my email I send to you about you being on my show, or, sending out information, about my credit cards, like why am I being charged for something? They don't need that information, but it goes to it. And then he even told me that, I hate to say it, he said Google is in bed with the U.S. government. They're the number one suppliers.
They all are. They all are. That's the thing, right? Is that whenever you do anything, they're all in bed with them. It's so pervasive and ubiquitous at this point that they're all in it. It's not. You can't single out one. Sorry, we have a lot of smoke here.
Half this country got a lot of smoke. Yeah, well,
from us.
Yeah, I mean, in my own state, in Eastern Washington, there's big fires. In Oregon, there's fires. California, there's fires. I hate to say it, I think the weather is getting really weird, and that's
why I told you, Guy McPherson.
Yeah,
have him on. Anyway, but it's not like you can look at one corporation over another and say, well, this particular corporate, when I go to McDonald's, they're sending in all my data into the government so they know that I'm overweight because I like, Big Macs. They all do it, and it gets there eventually. And like I said, you just have to be aware, and be aware that that's the way things are now. And I think that people should vote. I think people should vote in people who, politicians who have, strong commitments to privacy rights. I mean, we argue about the most inane, idiotic stuff, and it's like, you know what? Why don't you vote in somebody who doesn't care about that stuff? Who cares about privacy rights? Are we going to build a wall? Are we not going to build a wall? Maybe we're going to build. You know what? It's all just the smokescreen. Meanwhile, they're collecting more data on you, and they're watching what you're doing, and they're waiting for you to screw up.
Well,
I'm a conspiracy guy, so trust me. I file my taxes on time. I don't do shady stuff. I try to live according to the rules.
Well,
because I don't want to flip up.
Now, I'm going to tell people out there listening, okay? Let's say you guys I'm not saying you guys. Let's say there's somebody out there, maybe who's been embezzling for where he works at, right? Or,
right.
They sell on eBay, or they go to flea markets and sell stuff. They don't report it to the IRS. Well, you know how they catch you guys? Is when you start buying stuff on eBay, or where you start buying stuff, going online and start looking at expensive stuff, and all of a sudden you start buying, and they know how much money you make a year, and all of a sudden you start buying almost equal to what we show as what your income is. They go, they'll catch you. They'll catch you eventually.
Big data.
Yeah.
Big data. And it's all about what's called big data. It's all about big data. And it's, it's your bank. It's your ISP. It's your email provider if you don't use your ISP. It's your cable company. It's your, it's the people, it's the car manufacturer. I mean, it's everybody. When you rent a car, they track you. There have been many people who will rent a car and they won't think about what they're signing for. And they'll rent this car and they'll go tootling around wherever they've decided to go on vacation. And they'll think to myself, well, Kentucky's just across the border. Let's just go 10 feet into Kentucky so we can say we've been there. Well, in the paperwork, they were like, hey, you can't take this out of state. You took it out of state. Here's a $150 fine.
Yeah.
Or you drive too fast, and they detect it. And they send you a bill. They say, well, you violated the terms of service. You drove too fast. You were speeding, so now you have to pay a surcharge because you were speeding. And it's like, that's the way it is. Again, I don't care if you're on the right, the left, the middle, it doesn't matter. It's about privacy rights. You should get somebody from the EFF on. If you want somebody who will really tell you a lot, get somebody from the Electronic Frontier Foundation.
I don't want to be any more scared. I back a couple months ago, I had an ex-CIA agent on my show, and I'd tell you, he scared me more than the DOD agent did. I mean, he was talking about things they have. Change the subject just real quickly. They could be parked across the street from your house, right? And they got this device, right? They can single you out. And you could be sitting watching TV in your living room, right? They're parked out in their van or car or across the street from your house. All of a sudden, you have a massive, massive heart attack, and you drop over dead.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They've had that for decades.
Yeah. But
the one I like that I think is really cool when it comes to spyware, I like they use a laser mic, and basically they can, as long as they can get a direct line of sight to one of your windows, the laser will hit the window and make the window vibrate and turn the window into a microphone.
Oh, yeah, and then they can listen to everything you talk about.
Oh, yeah, it's crystal clear. That one has always blown my mind.
Yeah, but
that one's always.
And you think about where they need search warrants and all this stuff to do it. Well, I guarantee you, a lot of these agencies don't. I mean, let's just face it. I mean, the government, a couple times tried to, the courts and everything, to curtail the government from doing what they're doing, especially when we had one of our presidents, I won't say who, but Hillary's husband, I'll say that much, tried to curtail what was going on. And they kind of backed down and, They never back down. They just speed it up all the more.
Well, that's why you have the whole FISA thing, right? In a FISA court is, it's classified. The people who sit on the panel are classified. They will go in to get a FISA search warrant or a FISA warrant, and the warrant itself is classified. So there's no public record of the warrant being issued, and they just they have a warrant to do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
But again, on a bigger, it sounds very dire, and a lot of people right now are probably thinking, oh my God, I have nowhere to run. It's not really that dire, but what it does is that it creates a scenario where the populace can be manipulated into doing things, and they can be fed information that pushes them toward an outcome. And again, I go back to Orwell. Orwell was the prophet. In 1984, one of the core things that they did in 1984 is this notion of there were three groups. There was Oceania, East Asia, and Eurasia, right? And East Asia and Oceania were at war with Eurasia. And then suddenly Eurasia and East Asia were at war with Oceania. And they kept rotating who was fighting because they kept the populace unstable, that they didn't know what was going on. And the other thing that Orwell predicted that I think is true is that even the revolutionary group that was trying to rise up against the plutocrats and the oligarchs that were in control of this dystopian world, even the rebellion was manufactured, that they had created the rebellion in order to channel people's frustration and to control the rebellion. They actually invented the rebellion. And that I thought was a very powerful thing that not a lot of people talk about. This idea that some of these rebellions that we think we're a part of are manufactured.
That's what's really, really scary. I mean, I don't know.
It's not the CIA. It's not CNN. It's not Fox News. It's not fake news. A lot of this news is not fake. It may be manipulated, but it's not fake. But what it is that all of it, whether it's right news, left news, alt-right news, alt-left news, it's all generated by somebody beyond the U.S. government in order to destabilize all government. It's not that anybody's trying to destabilize the Russians or us or the Chinese, the North Koreans or the Cubans or the Nicaraguans or the Canadians. It's that there's somebody somewhere who's trying to keep the whole thing unstable because there's more of us than them. And if we ever stopped one day and said, this is bullshit, we call bullshit, there aren't enough of them to stop all of us from saying we want it to be different.
I don't know. I think it's actually gone to the point of no return. I think it's implanted so far in our society now that it's everywhere. I mean, it's everywhere. I mean,
but it's been like that for 2,000 years. This is not new. I mean, the Romans did shit like this all the time. The Romans, people don't know this, but the Romans had an equivalent of the CIA, and the Roman intelligence service would go and they would ferment revolutions, and they would ferment problems in various protectorates to weaken local control. I mean, this kind of stuff has gone back for thousands of years. That's why I've always maintained, people, the one question you always get asked in the conspiracy stuff is, who's at the top? Who's at the top? Who's at the top? The Illuminati. Who's the Illuminati? Who are the illuminated ones? Who are the powers that be? All kinds of different words, right? And this is like the 1% of the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. you know.